Welcome back, everyone. This is Wisconsin Shoe Guy. Today we're going to take a look at how to treat shell cordovan. And in this case, this is shell cordovan that's been on the shelf for a little while. And I want to make sure that I'm able to keep it hydrated and looking nice. Now, I've used a lot of different shell cordovan products on this channel, but what I haven't used is, pardon me, that was one of my shoe horns falling, is the Carmina Cordovan care. So this is the Carmina, and this came with these shoes, but I haven't used them yet. I'm going to do it on two pairs of shoes. One, which is with the Hatch Grand Shell Cordovan, and one that is just plain. Now this is a lighter color, so I'm going to actually show you how to test it and make sure that it doesn't damage the color. And so what we're going to do first is, where do you want to test a cream like this? And the answer is on the tongue, right? Now these have regular leather on the inside here, but the tongue has a different size there. So we're going to use that. Now I'm going to just move the lighting around here to make this a little bit easier for you to see. And so now when you see the tongue, you can see what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to do it along the edge here, but I'm going to do it in the corner where it's always going to be buried. So, and again, I just want to make sure that it's not darkening the shell. So first thing, I'm gonna brush it a little bit, and then here I'm gonna just fold it like this. I'm gonna take it and I'm just gonna rub a little bit on there. All right, not a lot, but I'm gonna let that dry while we work on these other shoes, and then we'll be able to see how it works. Now, this color, this is bourbon shell cordovan, and it is a little darker than it was early in the shoe's life, right? So I'm gonna take, and I'm gonna just do a quick brush. Now I'm not taking the laces out, I'm not doing anything fancy on this because I've worked with this cordovan cream before and it works really nicely. And you don't have to use a lot, right? You see how much that is? That is probably enough for half the shoe. Okay, so what I'm doing is, if you look at the wing, I'm getting the whole wing and the wing behind the wing, okay? That covers the whole vamp. Now, when I do shell cordovan, I always use a lot of pressure around the joints and where it's creating those rolls in order to tighten it out a little bit. Now I'm going to use about half as much, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the facing and up to the heel quarter, but I'm not going to do the heel quarter. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, all right? Which is get the facing, get that, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the back and just do this. Now, they have tinted shell cordovan creams, which are great. They do them in black, brown, and burgundy, but I don't use anything except the burgundy one. A, I don't have any black shell cordovan anymore, and B, I like the way the burgundy one works on the material, but I really think that neutral is best, especially with a pair like this, where I have colored laces, or colored stitching, excuse me, and that colored stitching is gonna get inked over if I do something on it. Now, again, I'm using just enough to make the part that I'm doing a little bit wet. You don't wanna use a lot of this stuff. All right, and if it starts to build on an area, you just wipe it off. Okay, and here you can see I did it differently. I used a different amount for different parts. Okay, now if there's a trouble spot, you know, you can always go to that and and get it as part of what you're doing, really work on it. Or you can use, you know, a piece of ebony or a piece of deer bone. But lots of different ways to do it, but that's it. You just make sure you work it in, okay? Nothing more than like a light massage, okay? And then most of your work is gonna be with the later. Now, I'm taking this and I'm going to brush it, and you can see there's no darkening happening whatsoever. So even though these are really light shell Cordovan boots, it's not going to darken them. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the boots. Now these boots had a small amount of water spotting, and so I'm making sure I go over those water spots so that I have a good feel on them. But I'm not using a tremendous amount here either, because I really want the chemicals here to do the work, not me. Okay, so now again, I'm just exposing the tongue and getting the whole tongue. Now I don't do the tongues on usually, but because I did that for the testing, I'm just evening it out. And then, you know, working on the shoe part of the boot first, and then on the strap and the shaft. You know, the shaft has the facing, so you got to make sure you get around the laces. But, you know, this is just an in-between. This isn't like a full polish. This is just a condition to bring out, you know, and make sure that it doesn't dry out. So just taking the moment and doing it here. And then I used a little bit much there, so now I'm using it on the rest of the boot. See, when you have a little bit more, you've got a little bit of leeway on spreading it out so that you really get the rest of the boot covered. And then I don't have enough for the shaft over here. So one last piece, and that's it. Now, what do? Well, you notice I put the first pair of shoes aside in order to give them some time to breathe. And you want to give them time to breathe because what you do next is you just brush the excess cream off, and then once you have it off, then it's just about creating the luster that you want in the shell. And the more you brush, the more the shine will come out in the shell. And so here you have really kind of a basic shine coming from this. And you can see the ring light almost starting to have definition in the shine. It's not terribly much, right? A lot of guys talk about brushing and brushing and brushing and brushing. Well, once you use a conditioner, you don't have to do a ton. You just need to do enough so that you're able to get in. And of course, with the grain, you got to make sure you're getting into the grain, which is why I'm using this really long horsehair brush. And that is how you do it. Pretty easy. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skip over the other pair, but you can see the difference here and how they look when they're wet versus dry. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other pair. Got something there. And so this pair, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lace them. I'm not going to worry about the tongue right now. I'll get that in a little bit. All right, and I'm just going to brush this. And in this case, it's as it's drying. You know, I can tell there's still a little bit of wetness on here. Now you can let it dry, but you know, the Cordovan cream from Carmina is not delicate. Okay, so you can do this as you go. I have a little spot here which I can work to clean, but I'm probably not going to bother because these are boots, and boots, even Midas boots, are supposed to look like boots. So I'm going to just keep them going here. And as I continue to go over these, they're getting a little bit more and a little bit more. And here we see there is a tremendous difference between the two, and that's just from the brushing. So I'll post some pictures of these after I finish both up, but for now, I don't want to bore you to tears while I just brush and brush and brush. So there you go.